2022, an eventful year for the power sector, with interventions across the value chain to meet the growing demand of electricity consumers in the country. With less than 5,000 megawatts of power generated, which is inadequate for a country of more than 200 million people, federal government sustains interventions in 2022 in the generation arm of the value chain, with the Zungeru hydropower project nearing completion, expected to add 700 megawatts to the national grid.
The first quarter of next year, we'll come here with Mr. President to come and celebrate the commissioning of 700 megawatts of carbon-free electricity into the national grid.
A deal for another hydropower plant to be built in Makurdi, Benue State, sealed with committee for the project inaugurated. The transmission arm of the value chain receives more attention in 2022 as the Transmission Company of Nigeria acquires more infrastructure, the highest since privatization of the sector in 2013. More new substations like that of Bichi in Kano State, Akure, Oka, and one out of the 5 ongoing substations project in Abuja, among others, completed, while other old substations upgraded.
The transmission company is a go-between and the conveyor, so it will improve on, transmission or cascading of power between generation at the upstream and transmission in the middle down to the downstream. And the beauty of it is that system protective devices help to enhance HSC, Health Safety and Environment, and the safety of the grid infrastructure. So reactors, transformer for load dispatch from dispatch center down to the distribution subsector, all the equipment that have been procured is the right way to go.
Arrival of first set of 6 mega transformers under the federal government Siemens deal in 2022 excite electricity consumers who are optimistic that the intervention will be a game changer in the sector. Interventions in renewable energy and rural electrification continue in 2022 with more rural areas, federal universities and healthcare centers connected with solar home systems.
It's solar connections of 5 million. That was what the NESP program had, and this includes mini grids, solar cabins, solar home systems, and so it's all put together.
We have been facing a lot of challenges on the electricity. We so much appreciate the federal government now that they brought this to our environment.
However, the gains of the sector are not without challenges as commercial banks take over ownership of 5 distribution companies for failure to meet up loan obligations acquired during privatization in 2013. Also, challenges of metering, energy theft, liquidity crisis and grid disturbances persist in 2022 with industrial unrest by staff of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, which disrupt power supply nationwide. Projecting into the new year, industry players and consumers are hopeful of stable electricity market that will translate to longer hours of power supply.
Thank you, Joshua. This is a milestone which is in line with the government's diversification policy on improving the economy. Thank you so much. Our next story is on the Humanitarian Ministry 2022 review. As millions of Nigerians, especially the vulnerable, have benefited from the various social intervention programs of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, correspondent Ruth Agwele in this report highlights some key achievements of the ministry in 2022.
The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development remains committed to providing the necessary support and the enabling environment for social protection and inclusion policies.
A stern commitment by the ministry in the first quarter of 2022 to live up to its mandate. The year in review for the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development was eventful. with high expectations to meet the growing demand of the poor and the vulnerable through the federal government's National Social Investment Programs, NSIP. The program, which has been tagged as one of the largest social programs in Africa, impacted many lives.
With this program, because I am using the money to sell cap.
The money I used to buy food for my family.
Now I have something to come buy and put in my table, but there was no money. Now I have the 10,000. I'm very, very glad to have the 10,000.
This has been, in the history of Nigeria, the government that will recruit the largest number of unemployed graduates in the country.
The year in review, the ministry successfully enrolled all 36 states and the FCT under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Number of public schools enrolled is more than 56,000, and number of pupils benefiting from the program is more than 9 million. For the Government Enterprise Empowerment Program JEEP 2.0, more than 38,000 have benefited under the trader money. More than 43,000 persons have also benefited under market money nationwide. A total of 81,503 JEEP beneficiaries have been credited with 50,000 naira non-collateral loan in the first phase of disbursement for the Yen Power Scheme under Batch C Stream 1 and 2. 1 million unemployed youths have been enrolled. More youths have also benefited in trainings on ICT and other vocational skills under its various capacity building programs. For the conditional cash transfer, more than 9 million persons are benefiting as captured under the Household Uplifting Program of the CCT, with 1.9 million households represented. As part of commitment to social inclusion, 10% of persons with disabilities have been included into the National Social Investment Programs. Aside interventions under the NSIP, one-off cash grant of 20,000 naira was flagged off across the country to vulnerable groups to ease the burden of poverty.
And this money, it reached me to do small market. I'm thanking God.
To ensure accountability and transparency of the social intervention programs, independent monitors were engaged by the ministry, and civil society organizations were also carried along for effective monitoring and compliance of the various programs. Although the impact of the 2022 flooding that affected lives, farmlands and livelihoods increased the number of displaced persons in the country, the ministry reached out to affected states with the distribution of 12,000 metric tons of grains approved by President Muhammadu Buhari and non-food items through its operations agency, NEMA.
The ministry, through the National Emergency Management Agency, has already provided warehouse facilities in the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation to receive the items.
With the successes recorded in addressing humanitarian crisis in Nigeria, there are still challenges, even with modalities put in place for sustainability of its various intervention programs. The expectations are high for more empowerment and restoration of hope, expected to be met in 2023.
Thank you, Ruth, for that review. And on that note, we conclude this week's edition of The Correspondence. Thanks so much for being part of it. Remember that rape is a crime. Join the NTA in the fight against rape and rapists and be a star. I am Taisi Omeri. See you next week.
"24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
The captivating yet intriguing sights and engaging and unique sounds can leave a sightseer in awe. But when you make these adventures, do you go searching for your familiar foods, or are you adventurous like me to taste new delicacies? Though I am not a food taster.
I'm on the trail of 6 different Nigerian cuisines, and my first stop is going to be Benue State, where the attraction isn't really pounded yam, but the soup. Okoho soup is indigenous to the people of Idoma land in Benue State, and to my knowledge, the thickest soup in the country. Chefs Elehi and Ada are going to be taking me on the rudiment of eating Okoho soup.
The way we make our Okoho soup, it comes from a stem. It's a long stem, it's dried. So when you pluck the stem out, you beat it out, plug it into tiny shredded pieces. Then you now you tie it together, put it in a bowl, add your very hot water that is fully cooked. Then you leave it for a while. So when you begin to press it, the juice, which is the liquid, will begin to come out of the Okoho. So you drain that out. That's the one you use for the stock. So you now add that juice that you got from the stem, the one you squeezed out, pour it inside and whip. It's really thick.
And when you take a mold of pounded yam, you mold it, then you go into the soup. You turn it like, because it's thick, then you have to, with the tip of your tongue, that will be the scissors.
Okoho soup may arguably be the world's slimiest soup and very tasty. While we are salivating on the tasty Okoho soup, let us travel to Delta State, famous for their thick and slimy delicacy. This time not a soup, but a yellowish dough, starch. Starch can be eaten with any soup, but its number one companion is banga soup, followed closely by owo soup, another local delicacy. Starch is made from cassava, and though it's tasteless eaten alone, it is mouth-watery taken with banga soup. It is originally an Urobo delight, but now a common feature in states in the South-South. Before settling down to a meal of starch, be sure to get a lesson or two on how to cut it. From there, we head west, where amala and ewedu mixed with gbegiri and pomo is a party favorite. But this meal has traveled far past the southwestern borders. So let's skip that and take a look at ewa agoyin. This is a meal made from black-eyed beans, which is cooked extremely soft and mashed. It is taken with a barely ground pepper sauce. This is popular in many streets and homes in Yoruba land. Then we head north and pay homage to the tuwo shinkafa, the miyan kuka. Tuwo shinkafa is made from short grain rice, which is overcooked and made into a mold. While the miyan kuka is from the powdery leaves of the baobab tree. It is said to be the easiest soup in the north to prepare. Then we go east, where we have ofe onobu, ofe nsala, ofe oweri. But what caught my eye was abacha, a mixture of cassava, vegetables, garden egg, onions, and whatever you like to put into it, with stew poured on top and fish to go with it. Just like the Kola Nut, this meal must be present at any Igbo celebration, and it is said it does not understand any language other than Igbo. Finally, the famous Nigerian party jollof rice. This is a meal general to every region in Nigeria. Though preparation and ingredients may differ from place to place and amongst households, they all arrive at the same mouth-watery finish. There are many more foods I am off to taste, and I would suggest you do the same. Meanwhile, I have an invite to River State,
where fisherman soup is one of the delicacies of that state. Why don't you join me?
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere, We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness.
Political parties signed second peace accord as United States expresses solidarity with Nigeria ahead of the polls.
President Buhari launches COVID security equipment for the military and police.
Supreme Court reserves judgment on monetary policy.
Good Morning Nigeria today discusses the 2023 general elections, second National Peace Accord.
Nigeria's history indeed will appear incomplete without mentioning electoral violence and other acts contravening electoral laws that often manifest before and after elections. Nigerian politics in the last 2 decades has continued to witness series of violent post-election destruction and loss of lives and property, which eventually brought about the concept of being committed to a peace accord initiated by the Goodluck Jonathan administration ahead of the 2015 general elections. The essence, of course, is to prevent violence and promote issue-based campaign by presidential candidates and chairpersons of political parties contesting in the election.
Well, just to indicate there, the National Peace Accord was actually the brainchild of the National Peace Committee in Yere, and that was in 2015, and it had nothing to do with the Goodluck Jonathan administration directly. There were 2 gentlemen who, of course, first discussed the idea, namely Chief Emeka Anyaoku, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations. They then invited Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukan to convene the National Peace Committee, and from there the idea was then developed, and of course you have as chairman of the National Peace Committee former head of state General Abdul Salami Abubakar. So it wasn't a government idea in the first instance.
Yeah, but Jonathan actually accepted that it should be included as a part of activities before the election by candidates. Some government would say, well, we don't need that.
No. He was brought on board, if you may. He was brought on board, not that he initiated it. There were conversations at some point to convert the committee into a commission, which then would have made it a government entity, but that's also been resisted. So as it were, the NPC, that's the National Peace Committee, serves as an NGO. It serves as an NGO, and the membership, of course, is populated by preeminent Nigerians. But its mandate has since expanded. You recall the tension ahead of the 2015 general elections, and everyone was quite apprehensive as to the level of violence that might break out, bearing in mind what happened in 2011. because even after the elections of 2011, violence broke out in a number of states across the Federation, which then led to the LEMU panel that made a number of recommendations. But of course, the experience also of Kenya, if you remember, Kenya had its own catastrophic encounter with electoral violence in 2015, and Nigeria wanted to avoid that. That tension was always there. But this was a private initiative, and happily the conveners and other members of the Peace Committee were then able to bring the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan and the challenger at that time being Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress. And they signed that first peace accord committing to peace and acceptance of the outcome of the elections. And one point to also clarify, because the chairman of the Peace Committee himself has often said this. If you recall, while the results were still being collated at the International Conference Center in March of 2015. There were concerns, and then you had the so-called Oruebe incident that tried to either delay or disrupt the final collation of the results. There were some accounts that said that it was the National Peace Committee that prevailed on Goodluck Jonathan to accept. No, that's been clarified. General Salami Abubakar said that wasn't the case. Yes, they were planning to go to the villa, but before they even actualized their plan of going to the villa, President Goodluck Jonathan, as he has written in his memoirs, My Transition Hours, picked up his phone at 4:45 in the evening of March 31st, 2015, and put a call through to his challenger, then Muhammadu Buhari, congratulating him on the elections and asking him to get by so that they could work out the transition arrangements. So that was what happened. And of course, the National Peace Committee and the Peace Accord have become, as it were, now part of our electoral cycle in the general elections. And more particularly, the Peace Committee has been requested to come in, usually for the off-cycle elections. We saw it in Edo, Oshun, Anambra, Ekiti, Kogi, and elsewhere. So that's precisely what has happened. And so yesterday, of course, you had the second signing coming on 5 months after the first signing. There are quite unsavory developments, as Salami Abubakar said yesterday, in terms of adherence to the prescriptions of the peace accord. Yeri?
Well, very true. And like Kingsley said, despite the subscription to the peace accord by political parties, the 2023 general elections campaign witnessed its share of political drama and violence, indicating that most politicians are not ready to abide by the letters of the peace accord, which was signed the day after the commencement of campaigns in September 28, 2022.
For example, since September 29th, when the first Peace Pact was signed, a number of INEC offices have been burnt by hoodlums, in addition, of course, to incitement of violence by political gladiators. Party supporters have also been attacked, candidates harassed and attacked, while hoodlums have dared security agencies by invading rallies.
All right, and that will be our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, as we look at the peace accords that have been signed, the one just at the start of the campaign and then the one signed yesterday. So we shall take a look at the impacts of this peace accord and if it has any effect on the electoral process in the country. I'm Yen Ray John. I welcome you to another interesting edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague here to also welcome you to the program. And we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we have our regular complimentary segments. These include newspaper review and business. For now, Olajide Bello has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Olajide.
Good morning, Yere. Good morning, Kingsley. And good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. Chairman and candidates of the 18 political parties contesting the 2023 presidential election have firmly committed themselves to not only peaceful conduct of the exercise, but also accepting its outcome if adjudged to be free, fair and credible. This was at the second signing ceremony of the National Peace Accord for the election. President Muhammadu Buhari, who witnessed the event, promised that his administration will continue to act with neutrality and allow the rule of law to take precedence over political expedience.
Assure INEC, the security agencies, and all relevant institutions saddled with the responsibility of conducting the elections of this administration, continuous support. I ask you to be firm and courageous and to abide by the laws and the constitutional provisions in conducting the elections.
I urge all stakeholders to understand this event has the potential of setting a positive trajectory in our journey to a peaceful and more democratized Nigeria.
I passionately appeal to the political actors to embrace peace and be civil in their engagements before, during, and after the elections.
The United States says it stands with Nigeria in how people as the country goes to the polls on Saturday. In a video message to Nigerians led by the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, says U.S. government is not supporting any individual candidate or party but standing with Nigeria in the efforts to consolidate our democracy.
Nigeria's constitution, like America's,
begins with a simple and profound idea: we the people.
And during this election, you, the people of Nigeria, have a chance to make your voices heard, to choose your future.
The United States does not support any individual candidate for office.
But we strongly support a peaceful election
that reflects the will of the people of Nigeria.
Because free and fair elections in Nigeria help create a freer and fairer world for everyone.
Your vote matters. This election matters, not only to Nigerians, but to the rest of the world.
We're invested in your success. Our shared democratic futures depend on it.
Go to inecnigeria.org to prepare to vote, because your voice matters.
The Nigerian people have a friend and partner in the United States of America.
A crucial meeting of the National Security Council has ended in Abuja with a firm assurance to Nigerians that the 2023 elections will be held and scheduled across the country. President Muhammadu Buhari, who convened the meeting, directed the security forces to ensure that nothing is left to chance towards ensuring peaceful and hate-free conduct of the exercise.
The summary and conclusion of all submissions was to the effect that the system is wholeheartedly ready for the conduct of the election on the 25th day of February 2023, and Mr. President and the Council, the National Security Council, are happy with the preparations on the ground. The resolution of the Council is to the effect that the elections are holding and there is no going back about it.
Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, a non-political organization, wants stakeholders, particularly religious leaders, to show commitment through their activities to project of promoting Nigeria as an indivisible nation. It is part of the group's desire towards a peaceful presidential election.
The security forces should step up operations against armed groups and protect Electoral Commission offices countrywide, as well as the polling units and collation centers. Insecurity should not be used as a tool to serve political interests, such as voter suppression in some part of the country.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, registered says its office in Okei is intact, contrary to social media reports suggesting an attack. This follows an explosion at the Okei Local Government Secretariat.
We had an explosive at Okei Local Government Area Secretariat in the night, maybe I think about 8:30 yesterday. We only had sand, and it was discovered that from the back of the secretariat they planted explosive there, which damaged one of the electricity blocks. There is no life was lost.
President Muhammadu Buhari says he is not only exceedingly honored but also gratified and fulfilled to be leading a country at a time when its private sector galvanizes itself to support the government enthusiastically in the fight against insecurity and other social ills bedeviling the society. This was while launching and handing over critical security equipment procured by the coalition of private sector against COVID-19 COVID for military and the police.
Today is indeed a very happy day for all Nigerians, and I can happily say that I am the envy of many presidents in the world. I am proud to say that there is nowhere in the entire world except in Nigeria where the private sector has voluntarily come together to assist the government efforts.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo Wednesday unveiled a compendium of achievements of President Buhari's two-term captured by the ministerial scorecard series organized by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed.
And of course the work of government continues. Government, as we know, is a continuum. It is the desire of every elected government that the unfinished business of its administration finds continuity and fulfillment in subsequent governments. And I believe I speak the mind of the President when I say that our administration considers it a privilege and an honor to serve the people of this great nation, as we have done in the last 8 years.
Parties to the suit challenging the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN's new monetary policy before the Supreme Court have adopted their brief with the judgment to be delivered on the 3rd of March 2023.
The President will do nothing to undermine the powers and jurisdiction of this court. We are all working at trying to salvage a difficult situation.
The President has powers, but that power must be exercised judicially and judiciously.
That's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria. Continues with Yuri and Kingsley after the break. Do stay with us.
The Kano State government is organizing a workshop on capacity building for Kano State information officers on the conduct of the 2023 general election in Nigeria in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC). Special guest of honor, His Excellency Governor of Kano State, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, Chairman of the occasion, His Royal Highness Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, CFR. Date Thursday, 23rd February 2023. Venue, Coronation Hall, Government House, Kano. Time, 10 a.m. Announcer, Balarebe Shehu Ilela, Director General, NBC.
Time don't come for every man to fight for the soul of we country Nigeria. Now who go save our fatherland? Who go rescue Nigeria? Now only one man is stand gidigba and he ready for the battle. Now man we will fit trust Kankpe, he get experience, he get sense, and we all know him. In name na Atiku Abubakar. We they call him the unifier, and in job now to save we country and bring our people together. He get Nigeria for mind and he ready to work make Nigeria safe and better again. Atiku they come together with Ifeanyi Okowa. This team na heleleo. This no be time for sentiment or paddy. No, this na time for competence. This man sabi in job wella. Atiku na the answer and solution for a brighter and safer tomorrow. Make we vote Atiku for president for 2023. Vote PDP. Power to the people. Na Atiku Okowa coalition Edo State bring una this message.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
My better country people, no forget to say for this presidential election, when they come for February 25th, we all don't agree say, now only one man we go vote for. The man when go play us wayo, the man when go end crime, Percy when go make our life better. That man, now Peter Obi of Labour Party, LP, the party when they get Papa, Mama and Pikin as logo. For in time as governor of Anambra State, now $150 million and plenty billion naira in leave for him state account. Even self, he no ever owe salary or pension for him state. Lie. My people, them say plenty talk not the full basket too. So therefore, make we all forward march one time go our polling unit with our PVC on the 25th of February to vote for Peter Obi of Labour Party for president. Vote Dati Papa Ahmed for vice president. Vote for Labour Party LP, the party where you get Papa, Mama and Pikin as logo. Obi Dati 2023, a new Nigeria day possible. Are you obedient?
The security challenges we are faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to armed robbery and sundry crimes. It's undoubtedly the greatest challenge to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. It is a kind of challenge that would have overwhelmed many nations. But thanks to the purposeful leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Great people of our land, now as we stand at the dawn of light, did you know that while our gallant men were fighting off bandits and insurgents, we were also laying a solid foundation for the infrastructure revolution to spark the growth of our economy? Did you know that the APC government has put our trains back in motion? That we have completed and commissioned 569 combined kilometers connecting Nigerians to friends, families, and trade by trains, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs across the value chain. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress!
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Time to have a bit of business. And Alika Okmanachi Arawa is our guide.
The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's economy grew in the fourth quarter of last year at a faster pace compared to the previous quarter. Official data released on Wednesday notes Africa's biggest economy saw its gross domestic product grow by 3.52% year-on-year in real terms in fourth quarter of 2022, down from 2.25% in third quarter and 3.98% in the same period. According to the report also, the economy slowed to 3.10% in full year in 2022 from 3.40% in 2021. The performance of the GDP in the fourth quarter of 2022 was driven mainly by the service sector, which recorded a growth of 5.69% and contributed 56.27% to the aggregate GDP. The report also said that although the agricultural sector grew by 2.05% in the reference period, its performance was significantly hampered by severe indices of flood experienced across the country, accounting for lesser growth relative to the fourth quarter of 2021, which was 3.58%. Now let's take a look at Wednesday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okpanachi, Arua.
Thank you very much, Alika Okpanachi Arua, for the business news package. And good morning, Nigeria. Coming up next is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja, is right here with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well. Welcome.
Good morning, Kingsley.
Chukwudi, good to see you.
Same here.
All right, so let's begin with the New Telegraph this morning. And we have the boldest headline that leads with this kicker: suits challenging Naira swap. Major setback for vote buyers as Supreme Court fixes March 3 for judgment. You can read up the details on pages 2, 3, and 28 of the New Telegraph. Above that story, we have just below the masthead, why Nigeria's election matters to the U.S. Again, Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace accord. INEC begins daily update. We also have right here, DSS police foil attempt to assassinate Osun Speaker. The riders, 5 APC members killed. Explosions, gunshots at Port Harcourt TV and radio stations. Polls, IGP orders movement restriction. Says some governors under probe for inciting statements. Details on pages 4 and 26 of the New Telegraph. And just above the masthead, we have federal government failed Gazette stores 6.9 trillion naira ICRC projects. And just quickly looking away from that now, finally from the New Telegraph this morning, we have Buhari launches 12 billion naira security equipment donated by COVID Coalition, raised 82 billion naira to combat COVID-19. That's coming from Dangote, and you can find details on page 28. Other stories are right here in the New Telegraph. You can read them up.
All right, let's take a look also at the front page of Leadership newspaper. EFCC deploys officers against vote buying. Naira swap will refuse to be scapegoat, says Supreme Court. 2023 polls, I'll be neutral as I was in Edo, Ekiti, Anambra, and Osun. That's attributed to President Muhammadu Buhari. And then there are a number of riders to that. You didn't obey previous peace accord, Abdul Salami tells candidates, blames party spokesman for violation. You must accept the outcome, former President Goodluck Jonathan. Atmosphere right for election, that's according to the Security Council. PDP focused on rescuing Nigeria, not G5 governors. Igbo leaders want votes, not bullets in Southeast. Ombudsman, NPO, that's the Nigerian Press Organization, inaugurates 9-man board. Pro-Obi pollsters will cause post-election violence, APC campaign warns. Chukwudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. So it has become a case of to be or not to be, as Nigerians largely contemplated. You know, the Supreme Court's verdict on March the 3rd, that's on the Naira redesign policy suit before it. I think in all, it's about 18 states that have gone to court. You know, 15 of them follow the steps of Zamfara, Kogi, and Kaduna. So the waiting game, which it is still for now, will soon come to an end. And we would know categorically where the matter is headed and know where we go from there. Because some people already have their grounds over, you know, Naira notes not circulating and all that. We don't want to preempt anything that is before the court. Let the court handle those things, you know. Now, political parties have put pen to paper again.
Sorry, before we leave that subject matter.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the media is reporting from the Supreme Court. Usually these days, the first encounter with breaking stories will be online sources. And then you try to then go over to newspapers or other media outlets that have an online presence. I didn't get the required clarity about the proceedings at the Supreme Court yesterday.
You noticed the hedging?
Not the hedging.
Okay.
The papers are reporting that the Supreme Court will deliver a judgment on the 3rd of March. Is that what the Supreme Court said when they were adjourning, their lordships, when they were adjourning to the 3rd of March, that they will deliver judgment? Or there are two very critical issues at hand.
Really?
Yes. One, you have the case of the plaintiff states versus the Attorney General of the Federation and Edo and Bayelsa states on the other hand. And the federal government has an objection to the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And a court of law, all superior courts, including the Supreme Court, must resolve that issue of jurisdiction before it proceeds with the trial of the matter.
Procedurally?
If you get the procedure wrong, you don't get it right. And your judgment will be in vain. So has there been a ruling on the preliminary objection raised by the Attorney General of the Federation to the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court? I didn't hear that pronouncement yesterday. And yet we are saying that on where the media organizations online and everybody, they were reporting that the Supreme Court will deliver a judgment on the 3rd of March. Because there were a number of issues that were raised by the counsel to the federal government as a defendant in the suit yesterday. And those issues are critical. Let's say, for instance, that you mentioned central bank 32 times in your brief. Or well, you call it brief. 32 times in your brief, and it is not a defendant.
Yeah, but they were not joined. I've been wondering.
So well, that's what they're saying, that this is not a matter for the Supreme Court as a court of first instance. That the court of first instance is the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court itself has not resolved that. And if so, in other words, there has been no trial of the issue. The reason I'm pointing this out is so that on the 3rd of March, when we then hear when we get a decision from the Supreme Court, a decision, of course, I use that broadly because it encompasses the various strands of outcomes of a trial or of a process.
Yes.
So that when the Supreme Court then makes a pronouncement again on the 3rd of March, Nigerians will not say, hey, the Supreme Court, they have not decided on this matter, and so on and so forth. From what I have read, I wasn't in court. So I don't know what fully transpired, and the bits and pieces I'm hearing, I can't quite piece them together to enable me to reach the conclusion that what we are expecting on the 3rd of March is a judgment.
It doesn't fit into your understanding of process. I understand.
The legal process, you don't understand it. It's the legal that's why.
You know, when I say you understand, I'm talking about somebody who understands the law.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in.
Yes.
Because I'm saying that the first thing for the court to resolve is the preliminary objection to this jurisdiction. Yeah. Now, when the court resumed yesterday on that same matter, you recall there were a number of states that were saying, join us, join us. They said they will consolidate the issues by the other parties that are seeking to be joined, that are states, join them. Others want to join. It's the same matter. Don't come and crowd the place. Put you on the one side. The preliminary objection raised by the federal government through its counsel is still standing. And I have not heard any pronouncement on that preliminary objection. So if you read the stories online or in hard copy, you are not likely to hear the Supreme Court say that, yes, we have jurisdiction on this matter. If you don't assume jurisdiction, you don't go on trial of the matter. And so which is when you are now trying to say, okay, that is when you now join issues. They have not even joined issues. So anyway.
You know, when the legal desk, bring stories to me in the newsroom. I have a way of trying to run away from them.
Exactly.
But somehow, Kingsley is now has forced me to become a student, and I'm beginning to enjoy it.
No matter how much you learn from Kingsley, he would never agree that you are a learned colleague. So just leave that. Just leave that. No, but I like the fact that Kingsley is calling us on the process, and it's important to listen because he understands the process as a lawyer. For many of us who are not lawyers, we just read what is in the papers and then we move around with that. For me, my concern is actually about the average Nigerian, the ordinary Nigerian on the street. Because the first breaking news yesterday was the fact that they said 500 and 1,000 naira notes, old ones, should continue to remain legal tender. Some news media carried that. And, somebody on the street would just go on with that and say, oh, let me continue using it. And then you'll be surprised. You wake up on March 3rd or any other date that the court fixes from what Kingsley has explained to us, and they tell you, well, that's not the position. Yes. So who suffers at the end of the day? So for me, really, in all this, even while we try to understand what's happening in the court and all of that, I think we should just listen to what the president has said. The fact that he has come out to speak, for now, we should just, abide by what he has told us and wait till we get, further directives and, not be swayed by what the media is, putting out there. And it's also important for the media to also put out the right information out there. I think this brings, because I'm reading another story now about MC Olomo as regards the INEC and all that, and I'm hearing that the judgment is for later this week, maybe tomorrow, 24th. But, as at 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we saw news everywhere about a court judgment on so and so. And, and I'm just seeing it right now in the paper, and I'm like, what exactly is going on? So I think the media should actually be cautious with what they put out there.
Yes, I am happy you are joining us finally in berating members of our clan. If we do not easily understand court matters, there has always been a way out. There has been the judiciary correspondent, apart from the resource persons we resort to help us. It is not a shame that you do not understand an intricate matter. Court matters are not for crying out loud. So I am totally with Kingsley's, slant on the matter, that people should understand properly what the case is. Because once you put these things out to the public, it becomes gospel truth to them. So you better come out with that information that does not beguile or misinform or mislead. You understand? It is very important that we tidy up our matter in the newsroom so that we help the people understand properly.
The other point, I get the point you are saying, but the other issue, you see, when they said Naira swap will refuse to be scapegoat, says the Supreme Court.
That scapegoat thing,
sometimes it's just sensationalism. You just pick the word that is suitable for you and then you run with it. And we have also discussed on Good Morning Nigeria that different interest groups are pursuing different story angles on the Naira swap matter. So it is the story that is suitable for, best suited to your interest that you try to ventilate. Yesterday in court, as part of the reports, the Attorney General of Lagos State was pushing for contempt committal proceedings against the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank for defying the order of the interim order of the Supreme Court. So they wanted that resolved, and that was why their lordships then said that, look, let's not get into all this things so that it doesn't then become a case of we are dragging on, and then you say it's the Supreme Court that is delaying the matter. That's why the scapegoat thing came about. So they said, look, we'll keep that in abeyance, and then we'll proceed with the issues. So where are your processes? File yours. Let's take a look at it. But what is crucial, I want to repeat this, what is crucial, unless, again, from the proceedings, unless the Attorney General of the Federation, through his counsel, submitted to jurisdiction yesterday, which I didn't get a sense of, then there's no trial yet. Yeah, the first matter to resolve is whether the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction
to try
in this matter. If it doesn't have original jurisdiction, it will wash its hands off or ask that the matter be remitted to the appropriate court, in this case, the Federal High Court.
Please, let me quickly chip this in. I like the job of the National Peace Committee. You see, the way that we make election matters intemperate, almost, you know, we subject it to unnecessary stress. Every time a cycle, you know, is completed and we're going to vote again, people give you the impression that we're beginning again, which is not true. I think it's troublemakers who try to make us go this way. Yesterday we were saying, look at the kind of things they have brought onto the scene. Nobody is even remembering that the debates, which had almost become a culture we instituted. Did you hear anything? Everybody performed the pilgrimage to Chatham House, and thereafter, it didn't matter what the local populace thought about the process. That is not good. It doesn't define progress in terms of people who are moving from point A to point B, or rather, who are progressing on the scale to what we might call the best practices in electoral systems. I think I like what the National Peace Committee is doing, but they have complained that there was some kind of 45% level of violation by political parties, particularly through their spokespersons. In fact, you don't know anymore whether defamation and slander mean anything to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
They take it all as politicking.
You know, the truth of the matter is that you had a number of unprofessional spokespersons in the course of the 2023 election year. It's a topic we discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, and I'm happy that a number of entities have also picked this up, including the NIPR, that is the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. And it's been a subject matter for conversation, for interaction, as to the unprofessional conduct of these persons who just believed, as I'm using that in the past tense now, because campaigns will end by midnight tonight, who believed that all you probably needed to do was for you to stand in front of a microphone or for you to issue one scurrilous statement. They were just not communicating.
Well, well said. In all of this, I think the media, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned the Chatham House issue and that you're talking about spokespersons not sending the right message. The media has a role to play in all of these issues. Yes. If the spokespersons were going off guard and then the media practitioners were able to say, oh, well, you said this, we don't have it on air, or you're going this way, we can't have you on our platform, I'm sure maybe they would have, you know, thought and probably did the right thing. But, you know, the media houses went ahead. Some of them went ahead, you know, giving these people coverage, allowing them to say whatever they wanted to say, and that's why they continued. And then the issue of not having a debate this year, I think it's also the way the media positions itself in the country. Exactly. That is why, I mean, nobody, you know, so we are the drivers, and then we're talking about this judiciary issue. I think we should just call a spade a spade. Yes, we agree that we are all media practitioners, we are all to blame for this. We should say it as it is. I think we should actually go back to the drawing board and, you know, do the right thing. Somehow it would help make our economy, make our country, you know, saner, you know, whether it's election time, whether it's, whatever it is, whatever issue that is front burner. If the media positions itself properly, then I think the right thing will be done.
That's a very valid really point you have raised. Like but at the same time, I just want to add a caveat. If the saner traditional media declined on professional grounds to ventilate the scurrilous positions being peddled by these unprofessional spokespersons, they had access to the social media. So, like a basement publisher, the spokesperson sits in the sitting room or in his lounge or his dining room, and then, you know, dressed in the garish manner and begins to say all kinds of things, and then he punches. And sends, and then everybody.
I agree that the social media is there, but we know that the traditional media still has more audience because there are many people in the rural areas who do not have access to social media. There are so many people who would rely on a news broadcast from a particular station to be sure that, okay, this thing is true or not. So I mean, it would have cautioned them a bit. Although yes, it may not have, you know, a stamp on putting an end to that kind of, but it would help to curtail the way.
Social media is a matter of I too have a phone. You understand? Fairness, factuality, objectivity, and balance, those parameters don't ever come into what they do. A social media person gets to a point of accident, sees some motionless bodies there, and tells you that 5 people died today at night, and about 3 of them are just unconscious. That's misreporting. So social media can never ever.
I you reporting live.
There he goes again. Kingsley. And again, before we leave, my people might not like us saying this, but the journalist has to say it from the hilt, so to speak. Is it really very encouraging, or should it be encouraged for somebody to come out from a newsroom and go and become somebody's media aide? There is such a thing as public speaking, and the need for you to learn it. That is why some naval officers will tell you that if they have money, I'm going to send my wife or even myself to one school in Switzerland where public speaking, finishing school there would nice you up so that you get to the level where you can tell a man to go to hell in a way that he looks forward to the trip. We have to learn all that.
That's fine. Thanks a lot, Chukudi. I know that we are pressed for time, and I just want to crave the indulgence of our producer to bring this up, and I'll be very brief about it. EFCC deploys officers against vote buying. The report is that EFCC is deploying its officers across the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory ahead of the Saturday's election to check vote buying, meaning see and buy. So people are on the queue, you vote, you pay them. That's a good thing. But I think that the EFCC, ICPC, NFIU, that is the Financial Intelligence Unit, that is the ACA, that is the Anti-Corruption Agency, should go beyond physical tracking of vote buying. And why am I saying this? There have been reports already that on account of Naira scarcity, on account, precisely, I've been transferred to you. No. So hang on a second, that is the point. So they say, I hear that that these vote buyers are making transfers already. How much, I don't know. So it is for the NFIU, ICPC, EFCC, to let them just, you don't need to arrest everybody. Pick a few. Assuming Kingsley Osadolo, if you can search, make a survey of my accounts. If I keep posting 10,000, and I post it to 100, 200 people, 300, 10,000.
You should be questioned.
The simple thing to do is just to ask, this 10,000 you are put, is it to buy groundnut or what?
Follow the money.
And then those who are also receiving it, hey, how are you? What did you say to Kingsley that is giving you 10,000? That is the way to go, and that has to be early enough.
And that is the only way they can actually.
That's the wonderful thing about online activity.
And to be truthful,
they
that's
leave
the
a
only
footprint
way
you can easily.
What's the point?
And you see, what you have mentioned, tracking the online money is actually the best way to track vote buying. If you want to go on the field on that day and you want to see how they will transfer the money, the way they do it or the way they send money to one person or the other, it's not something that the ordinary eyes can see. You know, they have devised methods of, giving people this cash and transfer without even knowing, anything. I remember last election, 2019, how a mother with a baby, a nursing mother, was the one who was actually giving the cash. And you would never suspect. She carried her baby, she was breastfeeding, she's sweet, So, I mean, if you are expecting to see people, I'm just trying to say, if you're expecting to see somebody like Kingsley properly dressed, carrying money, and then you're now suspecting that he's the one doing the vote buying. No.
But gentlemen, I'm sorry. Well, of course, gentlemen of the press. The truth is this. It's provoking mirth in us. In other words, we are laughing. But we do know that this is a serious criminal offense. It's a breach of the Electoral Act, and it is what undermines the integrity of our elections. It's precisely. So we are saying that this is a major challenge. All the former tactics they were using to rig elections, INEC has closed up those avenues through the introduction of technology. So they are now going to the blatant vote buying, and we must put a stop to it or reduce it to the barest minimum. So whether it's a mother who's carried a suckling or a guy who looks like Chukudi, who is who is that, or Kingsley, who is making
who probably wear a t-shirt and a jean looking normal and ordinary on that day.
How will you explain that one individual makes transfers of equal amount?
Nobody should connect me to anything odious.
Yes.
All right.
All right, I think we'll leave it at this point. Of course, looking forward to peaceful elections come Saturday. We'll take a break now, and then we'll be talking about the peace accord, which was signed in September and the one signed yesterday, just after this break. Please stay with us.
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote, I broom and go put my hand for Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote, I broom and go put my hand for Tinubu.
People of Nigeria, make we all come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC, the party where show broom. Not forget, now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote, I broom I go put my hand for Tinubu.
Operation Wild Punch covers Kaduna and Niger states. The operation was recently reorganized to also cover the critical Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, which had a defunct standby alone operation codenamed Operation Thunder Strike. Additionally, as part of the Operation Wild Punch, a subsidiary operation codenamed Operation Forest Sanity has also been launched to flush out the terrorists from the forest that straddle Kaduna and Niger states. These efforts were geared towards flushing out criminal elements from the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and its environment. I am pleased to inform that Kaduna Expressway has been secured through a combined efforts of the armed forces, the police, and other security agencies.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Enjoy 50% discount off in the Airtel Home Broadband Season of Love offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 GB or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 GB bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, but take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is there The order has been given. But we shall continue to protect the lives and property of Nigerians and foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
As a prompt for our conversation segment, which is on the 2023 elections final peace accord, let's take this background report put together by Abdusalam Jibril.
Prior to elections in Nigeria, the threats of violence before, during, and after elections is a constant feature in the country's election cycles. These threats and actual election-related violence engendered the signing of peace accords by presidential candidates and national chairmen of political parties committing to a peaceful poll devoid of violence before and after elections. Going down memory lane in the build-up to the 2015 general elections, a group led by former head of state General Abdusalami Abubakar and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka put up a peace accord signed by political leaders to ensure a violence-free exercise. It was repeated for the 2019 elections, but the spirit of the accord was allegedly breached, as pockets of violence was witnessed before, during, and after the televised ceremony. Just a day after campaigns opened in September last year, a peace pact was signed by presidential candidates of all 18 political parties, committing themselves to a peaceful campaign for the 2023 general elections. Thereafter, however, there have been reports of violence, intolerance, hate speech. Fine print of the pact: will political gladiators and their supporters in particular abide by the pact? Are there punitive measures for erring individuals or groups? And will the law be upheld and hold anyone accountable for their actions, no matter their status? Guest on the program will be speaking to the final peace accord ahead of the 2023 general elections shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Abdusalam Jibril, for that background. And we have with us in the studios a member of the National Peace Committee. A pleasure this time to welcome His Eminence, John Cardinal Onoyeko. Your Eminence, we're glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for inviting me. Good morning, viewers. God bless everyone.
And then we also have with us the head of data collection, Uzabe Election Observer Mission 2023, Mukhtar Modibo. Mukhtar, we're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yeah, let's begin with His Eminence, John Cardinal Onoyeko, the whole idea of the National Peace Accord. Originally, it was conceived for the presidential election in 2015, and then it's gained traction around the country. But what does this mean to members of the National Peace Committee? Is this ritualistic, or it's intended to become ingrained as part of our electoral process?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. It's interesting when I look back how I got involved in this, shall I say, business. It started off somehow like you want to do something. There was a tense atmosphere, and somebody came and asked me, do you want to be part of a committee that may do something to drown down tension? The person who came to me is Senator Ben Obi, and he came from the government, from the State House, and explained what he had in mind. So I said, oh, count me in. Count me in. Anything having to do with peace, I am there. And so that's how it started. I didn't know who else he had contacted, but by the time we started, the house was full, because we started with more than 30 people, all of whom were interested in this 2015 election. I must say, I never imagined that the group will continue beyond after that election. So we didn't have an agenda beyond try and try and prevent, if we can prevent any escalation of violence as a result of the election before, during, and after. The election then was between our present president and President Jonathan, between PDP and APC mainly. There were other parties, but they were not in contention. And so we started. The choice of the people he contacted must have had in mind he was looking for people who could be considered more or less impartial. All the various religious leaders were brought in. The current president was there. At that time, it was Orisha Jafo. He was there. I remember the primate of the Anglican Communion, Archbishop Uko, was among us, just to give example. There were other people. And that's how it started. The only way I can see this is that after the little effort we made, it did appear that it made an impact well beyond our plans. Since I'm a religious person, I cannot discount that God may have a hand in what happened. It's a kind of what we call a divine force that sometimes takes charge of affairs. You do your best, and then God makes sure. So it was after that, after the 2015 election, we were not even meeting anymore, and I thought that was the end of it. Then, it was when the 2019 election was approaching, General Abdulsalami started making calls around, and you use the right word, it gathered traction. And particularly international community here in Abuja took it very seriously. The embassies, the organizations, the EU, and so on. Even our ECOWAS too took very strong interest. Among Nigerians, there was a kind of usual Nigerian approach. Some say, oh, they have done a good job. Others who are saying it's only ritualistic. Well, I do a lot of rituals. That's my job. But I do it in the church. If I have to do anything ritualistic, I will go to the church. It's more than ritualistic for me. At some point, I was having doubts whether I should continue, because it was, you say you sign a peace accord, the politicians continue with it doesn't seem to impact on their way of behaving, and you want to give it up. Then somehow I realized that it's not altogether useless, and so I kept on with it. And others dropped out, never came back. So that's how we are left with a small group, and later others were brought in. The group that you saw yesterday, some were recently brought in with the coming of this new election. But the whole idea now has, I imagine, taken shape. We were not appointed by anybody, and nobody is paying us a kobo or shishi. Now we say, nobody's paying me a shishi. But you felt that if what you are doing is helping the nation, that's what every Nigerian should be happy to participate in. So that is generally what I can say. When we started, there was no office, no organization to work on. Then we needed an office to arrange things, and that's how the Kuka Center came in. Kuka himself was a member of the party, and his center was became the center that was helping us with the logistics of this whole affair, and it has become Kuka Center National Peace Committee affair.
All right, thank you so much, His Eminence, for that explanation. Mukhtar Modibo, I'm sure you heard His Eminence, and you've been following the Peace Committee since 2015, when this peace accord actually started, signing of peace accord by political parties and, the contestants. Quite, very beautiful initiative. And like His Eminence has said, in 2015, we could say that we saw the impact of the peace accord. But let's be more specific now, looking at 2023. I remember the first peace pact was signed in September,
yes,
just before the resumption of campaigns. Now, looking at the campaigns which will end midnight today, What's your assessment? Because would you say that the peace accord that was signed just before the campaigns, to make sure that everything was without violence, and all of that, would you say it has impacted on the campaign so far?
Okay, so first of all, right, it's not about the gathering. It's not about the paper and the pen and the signing. It's about the deliberate efforts the people that are signing are making. Now, so let's look at what are the deliberate efforts they made when they signed in September till this moment that they signed the second one, right? And how systematic are they following their campaigns? To be honest with you, politicians give us what is called political ideology. Now, you believe in your political ideology, and if you believe in your political ideology, if I believe in one person's political ideology, I run through with the political ideology, right? Now, if you look at the campaigns that have been happening, right, and the spokespersons that we have in the 2023 election, right, you could understand that there have been a lot of issues. Issues of, this very party will come out as a spokesperson, you trash the other party using some words that are not even appropriate. Yeah, the other one will want to counter it. The other one will want to counter it. And then what happened? The people that are following, right, are the ones that pick the fight. Then in the morning, the people who wake up watching NTA, seeing you signing peace accord, right? So what will you leave them with? Someone might not have seen you do that. Maybe he's supporting this party, the other person is supporting this party. They've already had a fight, right? And then in the morning, the other party has seen you guys signing, shaking, hugging each other, and what the other party did not see. They continue with their fight. So to be honest, we are moving. We are taking steps, right? But I want to say the steps are not being deliberately being followed by the people that are meant to follow it. So, and coming back to your question, what are the significance? After signing the accord, literally you've watched the presidential campaigns across the country. There have been a lot of banters, there have been a lot of insult and what have you. And we've seen some numbers of attacks on INEC offices and INEC materials, right? So now today, as someone that want to observe election, one of the contingency plan that we have for our observers is, you know what? Don't travel to observe election. Please observe election where you're voting, not because of anything. Hardly in some places you identify an INEC official or an observer or a party agent. So if it happens, it will happen to everybody, right? So the thing is, how do we curtail it? Now, how do we speak about it? You cannot register something in someone's head or ears without continuously repeating that particular thing. So the Peace Committee, the Kuka Center have done their own bit of calling you together. Let's sign the peace accord. Now you sign the peace accord. What do you do? Not just you. What does your campaign council do? Right? What kind of message do your campaign council preach out? I'm a young person. I do social media, right? I'm always on Twitter. I'm always on Facebook and what have you. Just take a look and see how people pass on messages. And immediately after Saturday, the whole thing comes back to normal, right? So the thing is, to be honest, how do people perceive the information you give, and how do people comprehend that information, and then what deliberate effort you're making is what matters, not just the signing. So for me, that's my stand, actually.
Okay, Mukhtar, thank you very much. I want to return to His Eminence John Cardinal Nwoyeko. How challenging is it for the National Peace Committee in getting signatories to the peace accords? I say peace accords now because I know that you have also had some during the off-cycle season elections. How challenging is it for the National Peace Committee to get signatories to the peace accords to recognize the import of what they are executing?
I already said in my previously that we have not been appointed by anyone. The peace accord, strictly speaking, has no institutional locus standi. And somebody was mentioning about saying if the parties do not follow what the peace accord says, do we have any way of sanctioning? And this is where I come back to the fact that we are even surprised ourselves at what kind of traction has followed this peace accord. It is not a government institution. It has no powers, none whatsoever. It's purely what we call it's a kind of
suasion.
I'm looking for the word. I'm almost say spiritual, moral. Yes, that's the right word. It's a moral force. It's like there's nothing the National Peace Committee is pushing that is not already either in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or in the electoral acts. So we are not making any new laws for anybody. Probably the most we are doing is remind them, which is why when they do not follow what we are saying, it means that they are not following what they should be doing, and there are institutions there that are supposed to take it up with them. And that which means our position and is only the moral force that we have. I mentioned that we're surprised at the interest that the international community has put in this. We saw that yesterday at the highest level. And each and every one of them kept saying, more or less, challenging the politicians. The whole world is watching you. It was made very clear that if anything goes wrong, they are the ones to be blamed for it. Let's hope that INEC will not cause trouble for us. When I say INEC, I don't mean only Professor Mahmoud. As you know, Mahmoud has over thousands of staff. We cannot guarantee what different INEC staff will do in one place or the other. They can create problems if they don't do their work well. The security agencies and the IG spoke on their behalf. If they do not carry out the so-called peacekeeping operations that they have in a professional and humane manner, they can create a lot of problems. But if we presume that these institutions do their work, it remains, again, the responsibility of the political parties to behave well, their body language, the statements they make, and the way what they tell their supporters. For example, it makes a lot of difference if a party leader keeps telling his supporters, whatever happens, don't go violent. Let it be said by them clearly. Whatever happens, we are not going violent. And if you go violent, you're on your own. You are not acting on our behalf. We want to hear that. We want to hear that. And when a political leader says that, he's not saying anything new. There is nothing ideological about this. It's basically the right thing to do. So that is what I want to stress, that we are not a government agency. We are surprised that people are taking it seriously, not only the international community, but also the party, the politicians themselves. It is interesting. There was no difficulty. In fact, it seems that all of them were anxious to come when we invite them. And I think it is good that it's about the only forum where they meet, all these political parties, where they meet where they meet freely, like Nigerians. It is wonderful for me yesterday to see them, all those 18 future presidents of Nigeria, or the prospective presidents of Nigeria, lined up according to the alphabetical order of their political parties. And
is it possible, Your Eminence, is it possible that perhaps you are understating the significance of the moral force that the peace accord represents? Because if you look at the presence of members of the international community, and the caliber of representation. United Nations Secretary General was represented through the special representative. The Commonwealth was also present. At the top level, Secretary General of the Commonwealth and former heads of state who are leading various observer missions for ECOWAS, for the AU. And then you also have the EU delegation. You also have ambassadors who are there. A person, therefore, who emerges through a process such as this could have some measure of credibility because there is a reporting system from these various entities back to their principals. So that's why I'm asking Your Eminence whether you're not understating the high moral force that the peace accord actually represents.
Well, I'll be the last person to understate the force of, the importance of moral force, because that's all I have actually. As a religious person, we don't have a way of forcing people to behave well, but we give them moral. We ask people, tell people this is what to do. That's what we spend our time doing on the pulpit, whether Christian or Muslim. So I have strong belief in the force of moral persuasion. And why is there force in moral persuasion? We go back to the point I made about the divine force. If you don't believe in God, then it's difficult to believe in the power of moral force. And I begin to feel that God has just made this possible for us to have this. And I've decided to continue with it for as long as I can. And I have the strong feeling that all those people who signed yesterday, they were not only there for Photoshop. Yes, they must have been also, and they listened to what everybody was saying. Like I mentioned, they were constantly challenged that the whole world is looking on to us in Nigeria.
All right, His Eminence, thank you so much. I like the fact that we have mentioned that we had the international community, we had people from high places present at the signing yesterday who agreed that, this peace committee should go ahead with the peace accord and the candidates should actually come forward and sign. But, the average Nigerian watching, that ceremony yesterday and then the one that was signed in September would say that it's just a formality, it's just a ceremony, just a show by these candidates. And you have said that the committee has no powers. I remember in September when the first accord was signed, not all the presidential candidates presented themselves. Yes. Some sent representatives and all that, and then some didn't show up at all. Now, will it be okay, to say that for the presidential candidates, for the politicians who were present yesterday, it's just a show? Just to say that, okay, fine, we agree to this, what the committee is doing, but they don't have the powers to hold us down. And then, they'll still go ahead, whatever they want to do come Saturday. Because we have seen that play out during the campaigns. And yes, in as much as we want to be very optimistic that things will go well on Saturday, well, of course, we also have to create room for the fact that some politicians will still go